What's up guys? ラズチャンネルのサラです。突然ですが、皆さんマイクって何本ぐらい人生で視聴したことあります？私は300本あります。そしてあなたも今すぐそれができます。このサイトでこちらオーディオテストキッチンというウェブサイト、皆さんご存知ですか？なんとですね、このウェブサイトで300本以上のコンデンサーマイクの視聴ができます。ボーカルからドラム、ギター、ベース、ピアノ、すべての音源を300本分聞くことができるんです。それぞれのメーカーが出しているレファレンス音源ではありません。全く同じ場所で300本分のマイクが録音されたデータを聞くことができるサイトがこのオーディオテストキッチンというサイトなんです。なんと無料です。会員登録するだけで全部聞きたい放題、比べたい放題です。それってどういうことって思いません？だってさ、300本を全く同じ演奏で聴き比べることなんて不可能だと思いませんか？だってギタリストはさ、マイク変えて何百回も弾いたらさ、その人のパフォーマンスが毎回変わるじゃないですか。だって弦だって緩んできたりとかするじゃないですか。そのサイエンスの部分を徹底的に突き詰めてやり遂げたのがこのオーディオテストキッチンなんです。オーディオをテストできる台所です。まるでもう調味料、料理のように試したい放題です。サクサク切り替えて試せます。自分のバジェット内で自分が買える、そして買いたいマイクをいち早く決定することができるサイトです。やばくないですか？だって300本聞き比べてさ、この音質のマイクが欲しいなんてできないじゃないですか。それこそヴィンテージキングとか、宮地に行ったりしてもさ、数本しか聞き比べられませんよね。足を運ばなくても聞けるんです。このオーディオテストキッチンのシステムはですね、なんと3年前にもうあるんですよ。日本の皆さん知らなくない？知ってる人がいたら逆にすごいと思うんだけど、ググっても日本語のページマジ出てこないと思う。だから私これね、実は3年前から言いたかったんだけど、いろいろあってね、ようやく日本の皆様にお伝えすることができます。なんと私このオーディオテストキッチンの初期メンバーで開発に携わりました。会社が発足したのが2019年で、もうまだこのシステムを本当に作るゼロ段階のところで開発チームに私選ばれまして、そのレコーディングとか開発のこのプロセスに携わることができたんですよ。本当に光栄なことだと思います。なのでね、オーディオテストキッチンというシステムがどのように開発されたのか、具体的な中身まで全部見てきました。っていうか、もっと言うと、このシステム開発に必要だった300本のマイクのカプセルがどこにあるのか、この計測をするのはなんと私の仕事だったんです。初期の開発メンバーはね、10人ぐらいいたんですよ。でその中で私が最も、この空間把握能力に長けているということに皆さん気づいていただいて、これはサラの仕事だとということで、カプセルの真ん中360度、時間かかりましたけどね、とても緻密な方法でカプセルの真ん中を割り出してマーキングをして、それを元にサイエンスバリバリのレコーディング、なんていうんですかね、ラボ実験みたいなもう状態でしたよ。今日はですね、このロサンゼルスサンタモニカにありますアポジースタジオをお借りして、オーディオテストキッチンの創設者でありますアレックス・オアナさんにどのように開発したのか、どのぐらい信頼性があるのか、そして実際にこのウェブサイトの使い方を具体的に伺っていきたいと思います。それではアレックスにお会いしてみましょう。 Let's go! ということで、アポジスタジオの中に突入です。ここはなんかラウンジみたいな感じ。いたAlex, right here. ただー Alex です。ご本人。Hello.
Hi, Sarah. Hey, everybody.
how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm at Apogee Studios, Apogee Electronics at Apogee Digital. Their headquarters is in this building.
Oh my goodness.
They have an amazing recording studio as part of their product development and artist development and relations. This is an incredible place to be. So I'm Alex Oana, in case the folks at home watching don't know that already. I have a company called Audio Test Kitchen, and that's what we're here to talk about. This is our website.
Yes,
and
it's already there.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to talk about today.
Totally. So we've got hundreds of microphones on this website for you to hear and compare yourself with your own ears. It's like bringing the showroom home to you. And the reason we're here at Apogee is because we're going to be working at Apogee Studios using Apogee interfaces and mic preamps to record more microphones for Audio Test Kitchen's website. Well, I've been using Apogee interfaces, converters, since for my whole career. And Apogee to me has always been like a super important part of getting the best sound. I mean, that was true with my very first Pro Tools system in like the 90s, you know? They've always been at the cutting edge, like at the pressing, pushing the envelope of getting the best sound out of digital audio. So me as an audio engineer trying to get the best sound, I was always trying to get and work with and buy Apogee interfaces. Mm-hmm. And like I would save up all my pennies to get the best Apogee interfaces I could. This is like, these Symphony interfaces power this studio. This is part of how they get their sound here. This is the headquarters for Bob Clearmountain. This is he's got a mix studio at home, and then he's got this is his tracking studio. So this is based around a Neve console and a big live room. Well, here let me just show you a little bit more of the studio.
Yeah, I want to see. Ooh, this couch is cool. This is cool. Super large. What? The ceiling?
Yeah.
OMG. It's like a dome.
I mean, I'm pretty tall.
It's curved.
It's like way up there. That is super high.
Exactly.
Okay, no, there's no way.
Wow.
Yeah, I love big spaces for recording, and this building is what I call the classic Los Angeles airplane hangar style. It's got this like curved wooden roof, and so we're on the Apogee Studio side, and over on that side is Apogee Digital, Apogee Electronics headquarters. But this is a really cool room for recording and kind of
it's an interesting sound.
Yeah.
Like the top, the dome part is really reverberant.
Yeah.
But the bottom is tight and thick.
Pretty cool. I know what you can see, so let's see if I can get some lights on up here. There we go.
What is there? Is that also recording space?
It can be, or a lounge where artists hang out.
Okay.
Just more.
Yeah, I see the airplane right there.
Okay, teams, Phantom Power is off. We are ready for the next microphones.
Audio Test Kitchen.
Here it is.
Let's dive into this website. So how many microphones we can listen to it?
There are over 200 physical microphones in this library, and then when you take into account all the modeling microphones, there's over 300 different microphones to listen to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, we can listen to the modeling mic.
Yeah.
Like changing to the model
yes,
as well?
Every variation. Yeah, we have, 25 different models from Universal Audio. We're about to expand that to over 65, I believe, soon. Same thing with the Slate and the Gauge and the Antelope. We have all those models.
Okay, so when we get to this website, it looks like this. This is the top page.
It is. This is the top page, and it's all about just like diving in and listening right away. This player here, and then this top area is called the taste test. And so it's these 5 slots plus our mystery mic slot. that where you do the comparing. So if,
we could compare 5 microphones at the same time.
yeah, you can, plus that 6th one, the mystery mic, which loads a random microphone just to keep your
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Making an account is free, and then you can have access to all the microphones. You can create your own session. Let's just say I'll call this the Sarah Raz session.
Okay.
And we can start from scratch. So what's a microphone that you're curious about?
Okay, let's go with the one I have, C414.
Okay.
X. Oh, you have all of it.
We have...
I have the gold one.
Okay, the gold. So we'll put that up in the first slot. You can just drag it and drop it into the first into the slot.
And recently I found out I love Lewitt.
Okay, cool.
1040.
So let me show you. There's a search filter which makes it really easy to find specific microphones.
Hold on a second. There was a price list and...
Oh yes, you can filter by price as well.
Wow.
So if you want to...
What? And the feature. Oh my god. No, hold on. Let's go with the tube microphone. That's what I want to do.
Okay, let's do all tube microphones. Any particular price range?
$1,000
okay.
to $5,000.
1,000 to 5,000. Okay. You can search for a particular thing. Like if you want to search, 414, you could just type in 414.
But that's not tube.
Or like
what do you mean?
47.
Yeah, if you type 47, you can come up with all the emulations.
Exactly. The modeling microphone versions, the clones.
Please. Let's do it.
You want to do that? 47s?
Yes. Oh,
okay, cool.
My goodness.
So I'll clear out all these other criteria and we'll just search for 47. So anything that has 47 in it. And then for the 414, I'll just put it away for now?
Yeah, put it away.
So we have this area called the cupboard, and it's where you can kind of create your own collection, and that's right here. And so I popped
which one you clicked?
Yeah, I put the 414 into there.
Oh my goodness, this is so fun.
Yeah. Okay, so we have clones of 47s. Why don't we pull up, let's say the Telefunken. And
I need to have one mic that I am familiar with, though. I don't have any of it.
Well, we can still compare it to the 414. Let's do that. Let's throw the 414 back in the taste test.
Yeah. Oh, I want to try Audio Technica 47.
Yep, and that.
What's the very bottom two? Warm audio.
Warm, a couple.
I want to try Peluso. Mm-hmm. I want to go with the expensive one.
Okay.
So now we're gonna listen from the speakers in the studio. I think I want to start with the AKG, the most familiar sound to me.
Okay. One of the things that's really helpful for this comparative listening is actually seeing one of the characteristics that defines the sound of microphones the most, and that is its frequency response. And you do not have to be technical in any way.
Wow, it's showing with the color. That is super clear.
So the color under the microphone, the color, matches up on the graph. Also, there's the keys on the keyboard quickly switch. So numbers 1 through 5 quickly switch between the slots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you could quickly jump back and forth.
And we can do that while playing?
Totally. Yeah.
Holy cow. This is crazy.
One reason I like to start with looking at the sound, we're supposed to use our ears, right? But also it can help kind of like guide your ears on what to listen for.
Because I see 3 microphones has a similar bump right there. The yellow one and blue one, which is Neumann and Telefunken?
Yep.
Interesting.
And so that Telefunken is a tube mic. The Neumann is a solid state or FET microphone, so it's just a different type of amplifier in there. The other main thing that we'll need to know when we're listening to mics is where to find all these audio sources that we've recorded. Okay. So this is the audio player, and you can see the waveform, but the place to choose the source is here. And
5 songs there, you mean?
Yeah, it's 5 songs. These are not just individual examples. These are like if we listen to the bass, the electric guitar, the piano, and the vocals and everything in LA song.
Yeah.
Those are all the instruments that make up that song. And so if I listen to the full mix of that song, that means that whatever mic we're listening to recorded every source in that song. And then when we jump over to the next mic, it's every source in that song. So what happens, the reason we did that is because it tends to naturally kind of amplify, or like the characteristic of that microphone. It reveals more of its personality because you're hearing it across so many instruments at the same time.
Yes.
So let's start with an example of the 414.
Yeah.
And
which has a huge
it seems to have a big
difference.
a big
The
bump
color,
in the
yeah.
high frequency for sure.
Uh-huh.
And just a note, you can like select a section of audio and loop it, and you can move that loop around. We'll just play it from the beginning.
Okay.
And
one test, we licking off shots in the west. We make believers out the best, lay the weak to rest. In Southern California, ain't no place like this. And after stuff y'all doing, we created the shit. So don't be sagging, young buck, in the presence of this. Don't even come from my city and you're running your lip. I'm about to make a call, get the news van out. Explain nutrition to you on how your crew ran out. We coming live from the Trade 23 area code.
I can totally hear the difference of the FET and the tube now.
yeah.
This was way modern and crisp for me.
Totally.
And that
Yeah.
was really warm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that was a easy difference,
yeah,
right?
kind of instant test. Okay, cool. Well, let's put
I want to compare
Yeah.
but the FET and tube, Telefunken and Neumann, that's a slight difference
so yeah,
in frequency response.
So we'll start on the FET mic.
Who one test? We licking off shots in the west. We make believers out the best, lay the weak to rest. Who one test? We licking off shots in the west. We make believers out the best.
Wow.
Okay, what do you hear?
I like the Telefunken tube version. It was so much luxuriousness.
Yeah.
I heard.
Yeah.
It's more detailed though.
I do hear that. I do
Yeah.
hear like a little
like
bit more.
all of a sudden it add the value to it. like a little more expensive feeling.
That's so funny. Yeah, and that's
But the price?
well, okay, so the one that you like,
The price is
yeah,
expensive.
$9,000. yeah. You have excellent taste. You know,
Okay.
you belong in the audio test kitchen
Okay,
for sure. But of course, this is not just about expensive microphones. This is the kind of the brilliant one of the things that's makes it a really great tool.
Yeah.
Is you can compare this $9,000 microphone that you
Right.
love,
Yeah.
and maybe find out where your budget is, and
Exactly.
find something that comes close to that. Yeah.
Like I can just have an experience
yeah.
of the highest microphone quality without owning it.
Yep. Let's compare
Just
the
a little
Palooza
bit.
to your $9,000
Okay.
favorite.
Yeah.
Pick
And how much
the-
is that one? That's
so
pretty
that's 25,
good price.
20, 3,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll loop that same section of audio.
Who one test? We licking off shots in the west. We make believers out the best, lay the weak to rest. Who one test? We licking off shots in the west. We make believers out the best, lay the weak to rest. Who one test? We licking off shots in the west. We make believers out the best, lay the weak to rest. Who one test? We licking off shots in the west. We make believers out the best, lay the weak to rest.
This is too hard.
It's harder to hear,
it's
isn't it?
It's really hard, but I feel the different character, like the policy of the microphone.
Let's
so,
go to
but
another.
I can't explain the technical part.
So we didn't solo any instruments.
Yeah, let's do
in there.
that part.
Okay.
Yes. Electric guitar on the right.
That is a great idea. And that's played by Brent Paschke, who is a great friend of mine. We've been working together for a long time. He went on to be Pharrell Williams and
Wow.
NERD's guitarist. So he continues to work with Pharrell to this day
Wow.
in the studio. Yeah, and he agreed to play guitar for Audio Test
Oh my
Kitchen.
goodness.
Let's compare now the $9,000 Telefunken to the $3,000 Palooza. Okay, they're both called 47s.
Yeah.
Let's see how they sound, the difference in how they sound.
I like Peluso better for the solo.
For the guitar.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
it's shinier. Yeah. Yeah, I like the Telefunken better.
What do you hear?
Silky.
Yeah.
And then the Peluso was more, how do you say? Harsh. A little harder.
Isn't it crazy how like?
But it's the same performance.
yeah, same performance.
Yeah.
So
I
you
felt
can-
like Peluso was played harder. That was the difference I heard.
And it's the robot
Yeah.
playing that.
Yeah.
And we had a reference mic on the hi-hat
Yeah.
and made sure that it sounded identical every performance. And I have to say, for people checking this out on YouTube or some other, whatever your listening experience is, the audio gets a little bit dumbed down for the video and on YouTube. So if you want to hear the most differences that are actually in this audio data and in these recordings, you need to go to the website audiotestkitchen.com to hear it for yourself.
Exactly. Very important. Yeah.
We're curious how a Sony C800G sounds on a room mic for piano. We're about to find out.
Oh boy.
Just $10,000 worth of piano room mic. Curiosity will be answered.
Can you guys turn on the power supply with the C800?
I think like a really interesting one might be to look at, say, like a modeling microphone versus
the real one.
What about since our audience is a lot of our audience is in Japan, there's a very famous Japanese microphone made by Sony.
Okay, let's do it.
Known worldwide as
Yes,
one of the
800.
best vocal recording microphones, and especially for hip hop and rap.
Right.
The C800G. Okay. So what I'll do is in our search, I'll just type in 800,
800.
and any microphones that have
Wow.
that. And so there's two different
8
versions
microphones.
from Universal Audio
Okay.
as models, and let's put the original Sony there first. And then let's look at the Slate model.
Ooh.
And let's look at the Antelope model.
Do you have the warm audio one too?
Oh no, that was released after we made this recording. That's something that we hope to update very soon. Let's start by just using our ears, and then we'll go to and look at the frequency response and just see like where it's off. Okay.
This is hard to tell.
And you know what? If you were running the controls, and in this case, I would probably want to just compare two at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because all 3 modeling mics were different.
They are. Isn't that crazy?
No, I mean, I meant the real Sony and all 3 mics.
Different from each other.
Were different.
Right.
So I need to compare
Yep.
how different than to the original one, like, the
Totally. So you
the
could go
Sony.
back and forth.
Exactly.
And
Otherwise, I can't.
That's the cool thing about it, and the total difference between, like, if you're trying to learn about the sound of products, like on a YouTube video,
Right. Or just do it.
you're sitting there at home and you can't control it.
Right.
You're like, I wish I could. And Audio Test Kitchen lets you be in the driver's seat. Like I said, I'm happy to move over anytime, but really, I invite people watching this from here. Go to Audio Test Kitchen
Right now, as they're watching.
After you are done watching this video, go and do it yourself because you can control it right here at your laptop, on your phone, wherever. Yeah. Definitely put on some good headphones.
Yeah.
Or listen through your good studio speakers.
Yeah. Oh, I want to hear the vocals though.
Yeah. Do you want to hear like some pop vocals?
Yeah.
Or how about we just do between the Sony and one of the modeling mics? You choose.
I was actually interested in the Slate or Antelope.
Okay.
So let's go with Slate.
So 1 is Sony, 2 is Slate. All right?
Open up the galleries so we can see better. Ooh, 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 ooh. Open up the galleries so we can see better. Ooh, 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 ooh.
And I'm going to make an even tighter loop because I think it's helpful if you really are zeroing in on the differences to hear just one phrase. And there's this mode that we have called
you were pressing something there. Yeah.
And so what it'll do, it's actually going to jump over to the mystery mic too, but it'll go automatically from number 1 to number 2 as we play. And then
you don't have to press it.
So we can see better. 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 So we can see better.
Yeah. As I just saw it,
Yeah.
it's boosted more
Yep.
on the highs.
Let's hear another vocal.
For you, 5 chords, 6 ways to tell you I was wrong. For you, 5 chords, 6 ways to tell you I was wrong. For you, 5 chords, 6 ways to tell you I was wrong.
I like the slate one. I was impressed.
Let's
Wow.
let's bring in the whole band in this case and hear.
Yeah.
Friday night started with a bottle of wine. Saturday, wake up with you on my mind. And then on Sunday, I believed that you would always be mine. But on the weekend, we can be fine. Friday night started with a bottle of wine. Saturday, wake up with you on my mind. And then on Sunday, I believed that you would always be mine. But on the weekend, we can be fine.
I'm impressed. Slate, oh my god.
That's crazy, yeah.
And it's only $700.
Totally, yeah. Position.
You have lots of tabs here. What's this one?
This one you can take notes on. So if you're like,
OMG,
oh,
wow.
this one is smoother on, I don't know, hi-hat. Boom, you can enter that.
And you can save it? Mm-hmm. And it's going to be saved forever?
Yeah, when you make a free account, it'll be in there. When you see the session, the Sarah Raz session, that's in your sessions here.
This will be fun to save it as a memory and then 3 years later come back and, after you develop your career more and you can laugh at your notes. You're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know anything about this mic.
Let's go Sony to Antelope.
Yeah.
So that's
like pretty close.
Almost the same in the top, but the Antelope is different.
Exactly, there's a difference.
In the mids and stuff.
Maybe too many.
And then the Sony to the Universal Audio.
Wow, that's almost identical.
Yeah, that is crazy.
But I don't know, when I listened to the Universal Audio one, I felt more difference than the frequency response.
Let's hear that again on this same song on the weekend.
Friday night started with a bottle of wine. Saturday, wake up with you on my mind. And then Friday night started with a bottle of wine. Saturday, wake up with you on my mind. And then Friday night started with a bottle of wine. Saturday, wake up with you on my mind. And then Friday night started with a bottle of wine. Saturday, wake up with you on my mind.
Wow, this comparison is amazing.
What do you hear?
The whole song comparison is very different than the individual comparison.
Oh.
Because the whole song, it really reinforced the character of the microphone itself. So like, it's not about the instrument, but like the vibe, the policy of the microphone. I can feel it. Okay, this microphone was designed to tell me this message, and this microphone. Especially this one, Universal Audio, was really bright and like wide, and I felt more like a modern sound.
Cool.
But Sony was, I felt really stable, like it really sits in my gut. I don't know.
Yeah,
and
that's
it was
cool.
like it was coming more forward.
This is perfect. I love the words that you chose because they make sense to you. You know what I mean? And that's how you understand sound and experience sound.
Yeah.
I think everybody has their own kind of language for sound.
Exactly,
And this allows you to have your own language. It doesn't have to translate between people. You know what I mean? You can take your notes that, I feel this in my gut. You know what that means? But like, imagine being on the phone with somebody or exchanging an email or reading a forum, and someone's like, I feel it in my gut. And you're like, I don't know what that means. That's why we did this, so that you could have your own direct experience. In the US and Europe, we do have links for where you can go.
Do you think you can put Japanese people here too, or no?
We need to develop some relationships with some Japanese dealers, but yeah, I would love to.
Everybody is watching, all the dealers and everybody's watching this. So.
Yeah, we would love to bring the opportunity for people.
For Japanese, it's better to click because they can get the support from their dealer.
100%. No, you should, and that's why
they could order from America, but it's a lot of work too. If there's any issue, they have to ship it back all the way to this.
But we need to expand that to more territories.
Yeah. Brass channel.
UK, basically. Yeah, American. Like back in the day, like Victorian era.
Friday night started with a bottle of wine. Saturday, wake up, you on my mind. And then on Sunday, I believe
The full changeover, which means
18 through
we're
28.
taking groups 13 through 25. Oh, I guess it's just 18 through 28.
And we're not ready yet.
Copy that. Providing phantom power. Thank you.
My first question is, how did you come up with this idea?
Well, I've been a recording engineer and producer for a long time, and I ended up working for a professional audio dealer. And so I would get phone calls and emails from people who couldn't be there with the equipment to figure out how it sounds. And so they would rely on me, who had used a lot of the equipment. So I would have to describe to them how it sounded. And I just thought, this is so ridiculous, because I bet that there's a way that we could just record everything on a level playing field and then deliver it up in some kind of way that, you can use your ears and decide what you like.
So basically you were tired of explaining.
Words kind of can break down. It can be like a game of telephone. If I say warm or, thick, or there's all these terms, number one, that might mean something different to you. And number two, I think that marketing has unfortunately made these words carry less meaning. So a company could say, this microphone is clear and bright and warm, and puts your vocal right in the front of the mix. And it's like, okay,
that's
well,
basically everybody says.
So like all of the qualities of everything. So what does it mean anymore? It doesn't mean anything. So I wanted to create a platform so Audio Test Kitchen is a platform that allows you to decide what it means to you.
The idea would be, so these two rooms going, there's 6 passes. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, going 5. To the chamber. Either way, like something's going in the chamber. There's currently 6 passes. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in here. Yeah. Then 6, right? Simultaneously. 1, 2, 3 at the same time. Right?
How do you make all these recordings so that these microphones, so it's a fair fight. So that's where some of our research and development came in, to try to figure out how to do that. And when we jumped into the studio with several hundred microphones, we didn't necessarily have it all figured out already. Yeah. And you were part of that process.
Exactly, I remember.
Yeah.
So like I was there with other people, and then you and Ian came in, and you guys had all the equipment though, the lasers and everything. And then you were like, okay, we have lasers, but we haven't figured out how to use them yet. Like we know, like it's gonna help for the accuracy, but
we had to figure out, how do we do this on a scale? I would say that was the biggest thing that we were learning about in the studio with everybody, because there was you and probably a total of 10 engineers. And just handling all of these microphones and figuring out, how do we set this up so that it's an efficient process, and like changing them out.
Make a system.
Right,
the efficient
there you go.
process,
Yeah. And so you helped with that, and one of
it was like a factory.
Yeah. So
with a wagon.
That's right. To be specific, one of the things that you came up with was a really good way to make sure that we align every microphone diaphragm at the exact point in space. So like we knew we wanted to do that with the lasers, but then we were like, okay, every capsule is kind of in a different place behind that metal mesh of the microphone. So how do we know without like taking those things off, which you shouldn't do because that's the sound of the mic.
Right. And then we might damage the mic if we do that.
Right.
So
then you got in there with your flashlight or like an iPhone
yes.
light. And
Yeah,
you were
I was
just
using like 2 flashlights.
Yeah, you were just like blasting light up into the microphone so that you could see where the capsule exactly was.
Yeah.
And then you made markings on the outside so that if our lasers hit those markings just right, we knew we were hitting the capsule just right. You know, when we shine those lasers on the side of the mic, the laser seems to have a width of about 1 millimeter. And I remember the markings that you were making were about that wide. You know, so it's like if you get the laser right there, then that's going to be exactly where that capsule is positioned.
This morning I was looking back, I was thinking a few people were doing it. And then I was like, oh, okay, everybody's doing this, so I should help other places. And then I found out that the remaining people were not accurate. You know why? Because I grew up in Japan and I lived in a millimeter world my whole life. But in America, it's a little different, you know. I don't know.
Wait a second.
Me, it's a little rough.
You're going to turn this into a cultural war here.
No, but it's not a war. But I think it's, I don't know, maybe that's not the country thing because of my background. Because I went to a fashion school and this teacher was telling me, like, you should know what's the 1 millimeter differences. Yeah. So maybe that's why. That was my background I had.
And I would say that it is about background.
Yeah.
But it's probably more like how you were raised and what you were influenced by, because like, I mean, I grew up in America, but you know, I have German lineage, and maybe it's my German side that's like super precise and into engineering,
maybe.
You know.
You know, German and Japan has the similar culture though.
Yeah.
So when I found out a few microphones were like kind of roughly marked, then I went through everything. I was like, hold on a second, guys. Like, let me redo everything. And then I actually remarked everything. But it was good. Like that time, other members trusted my skill. So everybody was like, okay, Sarah is good at this. So let's just leave everything to her. Yeah. And then we can do something else that they're good at. Right. So it was really great teamwork, and all the people you chose was amazing, I think.
Like you had filled in such an important role and upholding the quality. I remember when we parted, I was like, I would feel more confident if you would continue working with Audio Test Kitchen. Yeah. And then, unfortunately, you got really busy. You got booked off and did a bunch of other things, so we had to go on. But your precision carried on.
Just putting the number on microphones.
Can you show me a little bit how you like mark the mics?
Because every microphone has different placement for the capsule, the height is different.
How many times have you done this?
More than 200 times. So I can actually tell the difference by just touching the grill now. And then I'm just using the grease pan. Like where to aim the laser. And then after I'm done with the recording, we are gonna wipe all these marks. So it's gonna go back to brand new phone.
So that paper?
Just a sticker to see the exact height from the side. So, because we're using XY laser, so this is the side reference and this is the front reference. So I'm taping both front and side with this tiny tape.
Alright, you're good.
I want to know why you chose East West. There's millions of studios in LA.
Audio Test Kitchen was unknown at that time, even though we knew a lot of people in the industry and we had been around for a little while too, you know, in various companies and things. But we were really asking a lot of manufacturers to make a leap of faith, to send us their microphones, and could we possibly represent them in an accurate way, you know, among hundreds of other microphones, that they would feel comfortable saying like, our microphone on Audio Test Kitchen sounds like our microphone. It represents it honestly. That had never been done.
Yeah.
So we had like a really high bar set for ourselves, but really it was like, first of all, will the manufacturers trust us?
Exactly.
And we gave them the right. We said, hey, when we launch this, we're gonna show it to you before we go live with it. If you don't like the way your products sound on our website, you can take it down.
Oh wow. So you contacted each microphone company.
Yeah.
Oh
We had
my goodness. Millions of emails.
Yeah, totally, and lots of onboarding calls and stuff like that. And we actually got input from the manufacturers about techniques that they use in their development process to develop the sound of the microphones. And so we actually incorporated some of those different techniques. For example, Mojave Audio, he said that they always do the tambourine test, and this is something that has like extreme transients, very high frequency, and will often reveal a certain kind of distortion that like a large diaphragm microphone might exhibit if it's not designed well.
Okay.
And so we incorporated the tambourine test. But why did we go to East West? I mean, that's a big, famous studio. You know, when people say, world class or one of the best in the world, this is really on that short list of, who knows, top 5 studios.
But I feel like it had really room reverb, like it was not dead.
Yep.
And I thought this is not good for the scientific recording, but you chose specifically that the room has natural sound.
This is such a great question because we had to ask ourselves, what is going to represent all of these microphones in the way that people use them in the real world? And so rather than only going into a scientific environment and say, I don't know, measuring frequency response, which we ended up doing, but what's the experience of how people actually use these, and what are the applications that they use them on? So we had to make sure we recorded vocals, piano, guitar, bass, drums, percussion, and we also wanted to make sure that we recorded these microphones in a wide variety of acoustic environments, because that's how people use microphones. East West had this concrete chamber where it was actually used as a reverb chamber for the Beach Boys, for example.
Okay.
But we set it up so we had a bass amplifier in there, and we put a bunch of we made it a very dead room, but then when we recorded guitar in there, we livened it up. And then we were in the big room at East West, and we recorded piano. We recorded a close mic, just like that far off the piano, and then we recorded a microphone, 10 feet away or something to get more of the reverberant room sound. And so right there, automatically, we have 3 totally different acoustic environments. So now we're representing ways that these microphones respond in the real world. One of the manufacturers was really adamant. They wouldn't send us their microphones unless we were sure to capture the off-axis response, because it turns out that the way the sound sounds coming just straight into the mic in a dead environment is not really the whole picture. And oftentimes what's sort of unique about these microphones is the stranger sound or the very smooth sound of the sounds that come in from the sides and the back. So we were really careful to put these mics in scenarios that would allow all these different kinds of direct sound plus reflected sound.
I see.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, now I remember. Yes, we had 2 versions. Like we had to do the close recording and the far. That was a nightmare because we were like, okay, which one should go first?
Totally.
First day or second day of recording when we didn't have the system going on yet. That was a lot of work. Like then we forgot, did we do the far recording with this or no? And then nobody could answer. I was like, okay, let's re-record again.
And some of the systems developed.
After a couple of days,
Yeah,
we got to the
Exactly.
flow.
And that was exactly figuring out the workflow, how to do it at a scale. There were the people in the studio, and then there were the people in the control room with spreadsheets and charts and like checklists and like there was a lot to make sure that it was all done.
And you recorded all cardioid, right? But then you still have to do the room with cardioid setting.
Right. It's been a huge tool for students. Like, I know, I don't even know how many audio schools around the world use Audio Test Kitchen for teaching in their classes. They're teaching critical listening, because there's sometimes, really subtle differences between these microphones.
Yeah.
They're teaching, of course, the tools themselves, so you can say, like, well, why would somebody choose a U87 versus a blah blah blah? So well, you can hear that right here, on the website.
Yeah, it's the best way, just like you said. It's not an opinion coming from a person.
Yeah.
You can listen and you can make the decision. Not only the students at school, but all the audio learners, because 90% of the whole world people can't have access to this. We don't have money to buy all of them.
And we shouldn't need to, we should be able to, pick a budget that works for us and then explore our options within that range. It comes down to more than price and the way it looks and the features. It comes down to how it sounds. Isn't that the point? That's what these tools are used for, is capturing sound and painting with sound.
Exactly. I remember when I'm still not a super professional recording engineer, but when I started, I was so nervous to buy a microphone because I don't know how it's going to sound, and all I had to trust was the shop workers' words.
Right.
And I was like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do have a couple regrets, stuff that I bought, and I'm like, oh, this is not worth it.
I think most people have that.
Yeah.
Is the purchase that didn't really work out, didn't meet expectations.
Yeah.
The shop worker or the salesperson on the other end of the phone or the email, they generally have their heart in the right place and your best interest in mind, but they might be limited in their own experience. They might be telling you something that they heard from someone else and or was part of marketing materials that they were given. Okay, and that's low.
You know what I mean?
Why don't you just put this guy in there?
Which guy? Okay.
Fan is up.
That was so great.
On? Off? East West recording, the drum recording. We faced a lot of problems in the beginning,
Oh man.
I want you to explain how you guys aim the accuracy, what kind of ideas you guys came up with along to those obstacles.
Nothing can change about the sound that you're putting into it so that it's a fair comparison, and that means where that microphone is relative to the source. So you marked the outside of the microphone so that we knew exactly what the capsule was, but then it's well, how do we make sure that the microphone capsule is in the exact position in space in front of that source? Invisible lines in space, lasers. They projected a laser X in space, and it was where those two lasers met, one coming from 90 degrees this way, one coming from 90 degrees this way, would make a mark on the center of that mic, bam, right down the middle.
Yeah, and we had to mark the stand of the laser so it doesn't move. Nobody kicks the stand.
Totally, yeah.
So we had to gaff tape
Yeah.
everything.
And then the lasers shoot across the room to the wall, so we marked on the wall where's the laser hitting.
Oh, I forgot that part. Oh.
So if anything gets bumped,
Yeah. So the capsule, the laser, and then how did you get the accurate playback?
Right. So with the piano, that was cool. Yamaha sent us a grand piano that has the disclavier system in it. So when you program it with MIDI, it plays itself acoustically, and so the keys are moving and everything, but it's the acoustic piano playing back, just as if a person was playing it. That was the same every time. Piano, it's a living, breathing instrument, so it'll go out of tune after a while. So we had the tuner come back several times over the course of however many days it took us to record piano. To check the tuning and keep it in tune.
That was done by a human.
That was done by a human.
Interesting.
Yeah, electric guitar and electric bass, we recorded direct, and then were able to re-amplify one performance, and we always had a reference mic. on the guitar amp and the bass amp so that we could check the reference mic every take. We would listen to the reference mic. Does this sound the same as the last one? And it did, and that's how we maintained consistency, take after take after take. The drums, I'll talk about percussion too, because our approach was similar. We thought, okay, probably the best human being in the world is still going to have some variation in how they play. So is there a robot that could do it? And we found a Polish company called Polyend that has, it's not a robot like this, not quite that big, but it's these little actuator things that go bam, bam, bam. There's like a little, like a wooden drumstick that pops out the bottom of it. And so you place this over, a snare drum, bam, 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 in front of a kick drum, bam, bam, bam. And so because it's this tiny little thing, it doesn't have a whole lot of force. So one of our challenges with snare and kick was, can we even get that human-like force out of it? So that was a problem. But tambourine, hi-hat, it was plenty of force to get like a really good sound from those.
Yeah.
So our little robot guys worked really well for our percussion setups. What we had to do was make sure that the percussion instrument itself never moved relative to the striker, relative to the mic, all of that.
Right.
So that was not a problem with the tambourine. We used a Latch Lake microphone stand, and which, like, once you lock those in, they just never change position. They're really incredible like that. So that was for the tambourine. And then the hi-hat was a little bit different. We had to modify it because the hi-hat has a bottom cymbal and a top cymbal. And it turns out that as you strike them, they can shift a little bit like this.
I see.
So we had to actually drill through the two cymbals and create a piece that wouldn't dampen their sound, but would also prevent them from spinning.
Wow, I didn't know.
But so check this out, Sarah. We didn't...
Did that happen when I was
No.
there? After
See,
I left.
so this is why I'm saving drums at East West for last, because it was a giant science experiment that failed so bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's not even in this system?
No, we went. Fortunately,
Oh, my effort.
I know. We recorded the drums. We ultimately got it done at Chris Lord-Alge's studio.
Oh.
And Colin Liebick's studio is where we captured the robot tambourine and the robot hi-hat. And what we found, just to make this like a simpler story, was that because drum heads change so much, like after you hit them, over the course of hitting them, they'll change with the environment. So even the best studio, usually there's like a few degrees of temperature change just from the air conditioning and everything. And every time the air conditioning came on, it would affect the tightness of the head, and then the pitch of the head would change. And so there was just no way to make this acoustic drum set in this setting where we were trying to get kick drum, snare drum, and hi-hat all at the same time in one recording, not separate. There was no way to make all those heads stay exactly in tune at that time. We just hadn't figured it out. We had to make more progress at East West because it's a high-end, expensive studio.
Yeah.
We ended up dividing into shifts, and we would do like this group is doing 8 or 10 hours, and then this group would come in. So the group that had been in there all night, I remember I showed up at like 6 a.m. and was listening, and I was comparing take to take, and I had to deliver the bad news. This is not exactly consistent from take to take. The pitch of the drum, especially the kick drum, is changing. And then we went and tried to retune the snare, and we couldn't get it back to be exactly the same. And we had already recorded, 100 microphones, something like that, spent a few days.
Yeah.
So this is, thousands of dollars a day.
And the acceptance of the situation for the group. Because this is frustrating.
I think the only thing that makes that possible for me right now is to have to have a bigger perspective is the fact that I slept 10 hours last night.
That makes one of us.
Well, seriously. I slept really good too.
Yeah,
I slept really good too.
So what happened when I got a call? You called me at like noon or 12:30 today, and you basically said that you had tracked.
Yeah, so we had, tracked a whole bunch of drums today, and suddenly the drum sound deviated significantly from from the control source, and we were like,
because we had started tracking, from day one, we put a reference mic on both the kick and the snare and hat, so that we could try to make sure our tuning remained consistent.
Right.
Perk Pros remain for consistency. Our control mics.
Yeah, and so as you know, periodically we'd go back and reference those, and retune the drums, and
which were subtle.
But today,
tweaks.
subtle tweaks. Today we got to a place where the tuning went out, and for the life of us, we could not get back the drums to a place where they were close enough for where we thought it was acceptable. And so Jesse took a whack at it. I took it was hours, and we got to a point where we're like, I don't know what to do. We're not gonna record these because they're not close enough. So we stopped. We pressed pause, moved on, pressed forward with bass. Gave Alex a call because he was the one who did the tuning in the first instance
of the kick.
So just plowed on with bass, which is almost done, right? And then the process, Alex comes back. We pull up all of these control recordings, which over the course of time.
When did we start tracking drums? Actually, when did we?
5 days ago, 4 days ago.
So we're at day 11 or something now at East West, and so
4 days ago. We started on the 7th.
Okay, so we got 4 days worth of a dozen people, and however many thousands of dollars that is invested in this drum recording.
Right. And so we've been making these decisions. We've been stopping. We've been referencing these control recordings along the way, retuning, and getting them being like, yeah, that is really close, and that is or that's exactly, I can't tell a difference. But with fresh ears and pulling up all of these sample recordings, there's frankly just too much of a difference in those recordings. And we were trying to figure out what can we do. Is it meaningful? And it's just, I think the consensus was we notwithstanding all of the money and the effort we've expended on the drum side, that those differences will call into question the validity of the sounds the sounds we put out into those microphones, and so we need to kind of accept that, cut bait on that side, refine that process, and until we can refine that process, move forward with the processes that we feel more confident in, in the disclavier, in the bass, in the guitar, these ones where we know we can manage those variables within a tolerance that we're comfortable with. So
you are so trustworthy because you decided not to use it. I feel like if it's other people, they're like, well, I spent so much money, let's just use it. Well, you didn't do that. That's good. You really wanted, to provide something that people can trust.
Yeah, that's the price of credibility.
Yeah.
But I couldn't live with myself knowing that, if you go from this mic to that mic, it's not only the difference in the sound of those mics, it's the drum set changed. You can't have that.
So all the piano recordings and everything you didn't use? Or just
No,
the
piano
drum?
was great. Because the thing that's consistent between the hi-hat and the tambourine and the piano, metal.
Okay.
Metal strings, metal cymbals. Metal is much more stable.
I see.
And so you can have an acoustic instrument, but because it's made of metal, it doesn't change a whole lot.
Very interesting.
With those little subtle changes in the environment, whereas it does really affect drums. Drums and the wood too, even that, humidity change.
Yeah.
So we ended up figuring out a solution for drums where we recorded only the bass drum by itself, and we had these digital tuners, so we would tune each head of the drum after each take.
Each take?
Yeah, and we got it down to 1/10 of a hertz. And the snare drum, so the snare was the very final thing that we had to figure out.
That was the hardest instrument?
Yeah, and so I will confess that we never actually figured out how to record snare drum consistently with the existing technology. So going forward, I think the way that we will do it if we ever recorded an acoustic snare again, I would have a shell designed that I would probably do it with a metal shell. The biggest problem is actually the snare strainer, because if you think about it, if you ever looked at the bottom of a snare drum, usually the metal strainer is just held on by a couple of strings or like a PVC band. And there's just no way to adjust it precisely. It's screwed on, and like you kind of get it to the tension that you want, and you make, it doesn't sound good. But we would have to have a whole mechanism set up so that it's like we could control it by degrees and be able to measure the tension and all this stuff. There's no reason for anyone to make a snare drum like that other than us.
Yeah.
So we have to like design our own snare drum to record it.
Okay.
And probably I would use like Kevlar heads or something that would be less susceptible to temperature change and humidity change and all that.
So this one doesn't have snare?
So this has snare drum, but we did it a slightly different way. We were really lucky to get access to Harman Laboratories. They have brands like JBL and AKG and Soundcraft and Studer, and they have an audio laboratory. They have a big one in Germany, and they have a big one here in the Los Angeles area. And we were lucky that they let us use their laboratory. Sound absorbing wedges. Yeah. So they have.
It's like an anechoic room, or?
That's right, anechoic chamber. The whole point of an anechoic chamber is that you can test only the acoustic thing that you're testing, and the room, there's no reflections, there's nothing to color the sound in any way or distort it in any way.
So snare recording worked in that room?
Well, so here's what we did. We were able to put every microphone into that anechoic chamber and then measure it in identical conditions and then generate an impulse response for that microphone. It's almost like a kind of a baby microphone modeling. So we had a sound profile, a digital sound profile of every microphone. So in order to get snare drum, what we did, it's similar to like guitar profiling where people will like gather impulse responses for different guitar amp speakers. So we have like a snare drum sample that, was acoustically recorded.
It's just one sample, right?
It's played in the song, so it's, part of the music that is on Audio Test Kitchen.
Okay.
But the way that the snare then was processed through each microphone impulse response. So each snare drum for each mic has a different sound, and represents the sound of that microphone. So all the recordings on Audio Test Kitchen, the piano, the kick drum, the percussion instruments, the electric guitar and bass, all that is all acoustic recordings, and the vocals too. So it's the microphone recording that stuff. Except for that one, the snare drum, because the technology didn't exist for us to record acoustic snare.
Who want tests? We licking off shots in the West. We make believers out the best, lay the weak to rest. In Southern California, ain't no place like this. Half the stuff y'all doing, we created this shit. So don't be sad.
And one of the biggest questions we get is how did we keep vocals consistent?
Yeah, I was gonna go to that.
Yeah, I was skeptical that there was any way to do it other than just to have a really consistent singer sing into those microphones.
That's impossible.
The same every time. And no one can do it because there would always be something different. The pitch, the texture of the voice from take to take, the timing. So it was actually the suggestion of some well-known recording engineers that we consulted with and the suggestion of some of the biggest microphone companies that we ought to record a voice with like a laboratory grade microphone, totally flat, capture that in the most neutral environment possible, an anechoic chamber, and then replay that sound through a speaker that's also been totally flattened out, and play that at the same distance that you would normally mic a voice, play that into each microphone.
And which speaker did you use for the playback?
That was a whole process to try to figure out what existing speakers had that full frequency range. And we also did acoustic guitar this way, so we had to get the lowest frequencies to the highest frequencies. It had to all be there in that speaker. And the way that the speaker disperses sound had to be very even as well. So after a lot of testing, there were two speakers that served that purpose well.
You tested speakers too?
Yeah, we had to test speakers too.
Yes, so two speakers.
Totally. Yeah, out of all the ones we tested, the Atom S3H, so it has two woofers and a mid-range and a tweeter, and it turns out that symmetrical arrangement is really great. If you put a microphone right in front of that, it's getting the sound from all of those drivers at the same time, the same amount. So that worked perfect for us. And there's another speaker that has that same configuration from ATC, SCM45A, pair of woofers, mid-range, and tweeter. But instead of a ribbon tweeter like the Atom, they have their folded ribbon. The ATC uses a soft dome, and so it has it was kind of nice actually to have two slightly different textures for our vocals.
Weren't you using Genelec speaker in the beginning?
We tried the Genelecs because they have that really cool kind of point source speaker.
Right.
It's a three-way,
Yeah.
and so there's like a tweeter and then a mid around that. And then the woofer is behind this kind of baffle. Yeah. It just turns out that the way that the low frequencies disperse around the waveguide, it doesn't really all come together until farther out in front of that speaker. And we needed to place our microphones closer than that to get the proximity effect that you would get, you know, if you were miking a voice to a microphone. We did it at about 9 inches, which is kind of like, I don't know, like an average distance for a singer.
How did you decide the volume? How much you played from the speaker?
Yeah, we matched the playback volume to the recording volume. So we were able to measure how loud was this singer.
Like a reference mic you first placed?
Yeah, we were able to measure the sound pressure level.
Crazy.
So it's
like
very,
laboratory
you know,
experience.
And then we had a bunch of people listening in blind tests between, okay, this was live, and this is our reamplified vocal. And we got to the point where we couldn't tell which one was live and which one was reamped.
You know, this project's the most interesting part for me was it's super scientific, but actually the collaboration of human sense and the science. You know, we do need our ears to make a decision sometimes.
It's funny you say that because up until we had the access to Harman's laboratory, all of the decisions were made by ear. And when we got to the Harman anechoic chamber and finally were able to test it, all of our decisions at that point had been validated. Like, we got to the point where it was like 90-95% accurate to the live performance. And then it was in those laboratory conditions we were able to say, hey, you know what, if we just do this and do a couple adjustments here, it's totally spot on. Those ears were me and James Fluff Harley, who's had a long career with Prince and Korn. And
you know, he is a recording engineer of Japanese super famous artists, Yumi. And then Jesse, he's a huge person now, though.
Yeah.
A lot of Japanese people know him because he was interviewed by this Japanese magazine. And then Nick.
Yeah, Nick Wanoli.
He used to work in SpaceX, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So
Nick.
Crazy members.
He brought some good science. Nick and I had worked at Slate Digital together. It's funny, you know, when you work with people that you really click with and love working with, you just want to do it again.
Yeah, I think everybody was so special, coincidentally.
Yeah.
All the people who had different talents gathered in this project. For the audience of my channel who are developing software, audio software, the system, platform, what insight you might want to share?
It can be so challenging to take something that's just an idea, you know, even if you have a great idea and, you know, you tell people about it and they're like, wow, what a great idea, you got to do that. There's so much that goes into executing it. And turning it into something real that people can use. There will undoubtedly be obstacles that you will face. And the thing that you have to do is you just have to keep going. So perseverance is the number one thing that comes to mind. But the thing that no one can tell you is at what point should you decide to quit or change? And when versus when should you decide to keep going? That has to come from within. Save some money, so that, you know, if this takes longer than you think, because it will take you longer than you think, it'll be harder than you think, have some money or something to fall back on that will allow you to keep going. So no doubt you're going to experience obstacles you didn't anticipate when you're developing a product, and each person is going to have their own threshold for like how much pain they can take and keep going or decide to stop. I would suggest doing the smallest possible tests you can and get feedback from people. I think it's maybe that's the number one thing, is like to be not afraid of failure and feedback or criticism, but actually to get really hungry for it, because in your own little bubble and in your own vacuum, you can only know so much. You can only bring your own experience, and it's really when you start getting other people's opinions and other people's using whatever you're making that you can start to really see it from your potential customers' perspective or your users' perspective, and just get all kinds of incredible feedback and ideas that you may never have received otherwise, and then you might end up changing directions, and definitely you'll make something better. People don't love music.
Okay.
People love recordings, and the recording is the art. Because if you think about it, 99.99% of the world, they don't experience music firsthand, like Taylor Swift sitting there like strumming an acoustic guitar and singing in front of them.
Yeah.
They experience a recording of Taylor Swift that was crafted in a certain way, and the craft is all of this. It's what microphone did they choose? Where was that microphone placed? Through what preamp? Through what audio interface? And then with what mixing and compression and mastering? And so it's not the music itself. Here's my song, I'm singing and playing. That's not the art in this case. The art is the recording.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's fascinating, all the different things that go into that. And Audio Test Kitchen is really about empowering audio creators and musicians who create with sound, whether that's recording or live, to have a say in the paints and the brushes that they use to create that recorded piece of art. Konnichiwa, this is Alex Oana with Audio Test Kitchen. I want to invite you to go to our website with hundreds of microphones for you to compare the sound and learn about how different microphones sound and what it might be like for you if you owned these microphones. So this is a way of testing them before you buy, or even if you're not interested or needing to buy a microphone right now, it's a way to learn about the sound of hundreds of tools in our industry and develop your critical listening ear. And it's a free website, and all you have to do is register with your email address, and you can start playing around right on the website. It works on desktop and mobile, and we developed it over several years with like a ton of science and a ton of music and audio engineering passion to give you a resource that helps you really understand microphones. So audiotestkitchen.com.
ラズチャンネルをご覧の皆様、今回もご視聴いただきありがとうございます。なんとApogeeから約11万円相当のプラグイン5つを抽選5名様にプレゼントしていただけるということで、応募方法を説明させていただきます。まずはですね、今回の動画で紹介させていただきましたオーディオテストキッチンのEメール登録をお願いいたします。こちらは無料でできますので、Eメールと名前を登録していただくだけで大丈夫ですので、登録完了しましたらですね、こちら右上ボタンのこの人のマークをクリックしていただいて、プロフィールのページを開いてください。そしてこのプロフィールページに行きますと、登録されている名前と Eメールが表示されますので、こちらのスクリーンショットを撮っていただき、Eメールに添付していただき、ラズチャンネルの公式メールアドレス raz.losangelesaudio@gmail.com までお送りいただきたいと思います。 E メールの本文に、皆様が欲しいプラグインを第1候補と第2候補までお書きの上ご応募ください。見事当選された方には、E メールにて返信させていただきますので、Apogeeデジタルから直接、プラグインのプレゼントが届く形になっております。でですね、何のプラグインがもらえるのかちょっと説明させていただきます。まずプルテック EQP1A、 こちらは$200相当するプラグインです。そして次にプルテック MEQ の5、こちらも$200相当するプラグインなんですが、こちらの2つは唯一本物のプルテック社が承認しておりますプルテックのエミュレーションになります。次にApogee商品愛用しておりますローリングストーンズのエンジニアボブ・クリアマウンテンのシリーズから クリアマウンテンフェイズ、こちらは$150相当するプラグインになります。そして4つ目がシンフォニーの ECS チャンネルストリップ、こちらは$100相当になっております。そして最後が Opto3A のヴィンテージコンプレッサーリミッターになります。こちらは$100相当です。ということでApogeeさんに大奮発していただきましたので、皆様どしどしご応募お待ちしております。締め切りは今月末10月31日までとなっておりますので、ふるってご応募ください。それでは次回の動画までお楽しみに。